How do you scale impact, protect culture, and sustain your team when the need keeps growing, but the environment keeps getting harder? This is a conversation about leading with clarity, compassion, and boundaries when the stakes are high and the pressure isn't letting up. What does it look like to step into the CEO role of a growing nonprofit, succeeding the founder, right when the need for your services is surging and the environment around you is getting harder? That is exactly where today's guest finds herself. Welcome back to Being at Work. I'm your host, Andrea Butcher, and I'm so grateful to welcome Kelly Coker to the podcast today. Kelly is the CEO of Brightlane Learning, an organization that provides tutoring and resources for students experiencing homelessness, partnering closely with schools to make sure kids who are navigating some of the most unstable circumstances imaginable don't fall behind academically. During and after COVID, demand for their services exploded, as you can imagine. Their budget doubled, their team grew to 43 people, and Kelly moved from leading programs to leading the entire organization. So Kelly, welcome to Being at Work.
Thank you so much. I'm excited to be here.
Well, and I have to tell our audience how we met. I was at an event recently, and Kelly was sitting beside me. And the presenter told a story about Kelly. Kelly had done some mentoring with his daughter many, many years ago. And he talked about the incredible impact that relationship had on his daughter and how important Kelly's leadership was. And he teared up. And I noticed that Kelly also teared up. And so I leaned in and told her how much I appreciated her example. And I also said, I want to have you on my leadership podcast.
Yes. And I just a fun follow-up on that. I was able to just have lunch with his daughter last week. So that was an amazing prompting and such a good thing.
And it is so interesting when we hear those things because you probably didn't recognize the impact that had had. Is that why you teared up when you heard that?
Yeah. And it's interesting. I wrote Scott, the presenter, a note as soon as I got back to my office. And I said, this is an incredibly challenging season for me. And sometimes you feel like you're doing and doing and doing, and you're not really sure what the impact that you have is. And so just in a perfect timing to know that something you had previously done had impact, to hear the words spoken to you, not only was it a moment of, kind of the tears didn't come just from recognizing hey, that was great to hear about that thing in the past, but it was also completely relevant for today.
Yeah.
To know that some of the stuff I'm doing today and my team is doing today, it might be years before you hear the words kind of come back to you to say this was meaningful or this did change this thing. And so there was a lot that kind of came bubbling up when I heard those words. And so it was a really good morning.
And at a time that is so challenging, just to hear some encouraging words and the lift that those bring.
Yeah.
So tell us about the incredibly challenging season that you're in. I have no doubt that there are leaders listening that are right there with you. I mean, it is a stressed time.
Yeah. So like you mentioned, at Brightlane Learning, we provide tutoring and academic support for students experiencing homelessness. And there's a lot, I think, in terms of what we're experiencing, both with the population of students that we work with and also the nonprofit climate in general. So since COVID, I think we've seen more awareness around the population of students that we serve, and also an increase in the number of families who are experiencing homelessness, which is increasing kind of the need for our services. And at the same time, I feel like schools are under more pressure financially, there's limited resources, and nonprofits are kind of experiencing that same thing as donors experience, kind of a level of uncertainty about what is happening with the economy and where we're headed. And so when you put all of those things together,
Yeah.
it's kind of like the perfect little pressure cooker in the sense that like there is more of a need and you have to grow very carefully and strategically to meet that need. So you're not in a season where it's like, oh, there's more need. We'll absolutely tackle that. And so just the difficult season is really how do we do the most that we can to impact the highest number of students, but also do so in a really smart and careful way so we don't go away a couple years down the road. Like that's always the challenge that you're holding in tension.
How are you leading through all of that?
One of the things that I really have anchored myself to as I've moved into this role of being the CEO is that there's so much pressure sometimes to do everything differently when you move into a role. And I have led at various levels throughout the organization. So you mentioned I oversaw programming and then moved into the CEO role. So I've been leading in my way all along. And so I think one of the things that I have been really thoughtful or cared about moving into this role is
Yeah.
everything doesn't have to change tomorrow. And really carefully looking at what needs to change and what is working really well and focusing on both of those. Because I think the temptation can be like, what do we have to fix to make this work? And I think that's a good focus, but there's also the focus of what have we done really well that brought us to this point that will lead us into the future too.
Yeah, it's sustaining and scaling, isn't it?
Mhm.
Well, and those places that are working well, I mean, doesn't that give you momentum? Doesn't that build confidence and create wins across the organization? Because you need those small wins to keep going, particularly when things are hard.
Absolutely. Yes. And I feel like more so we're in a season at the same time where the challenge is also staff morale. Our staff are living in this world, where we're talking about things are getting harder for the families that we serve, and they're walking alongside those families. And there's a reality to walking alongside folks that are really facing those challenges that weighs and wears on you. And so ensuring that our staff have the energy, the care, the motivation to keep moving in the right direction is another component of that too.
Yeah, bring it to life. Kelly, what is a day in the life of a team member at Brightlane? What are they doing?
So it's really a twofold position that our team members who are working directly with our families, they're very focused on the child, on the student, and making sure that they are setting educational goals for those students and then working together with their teacher, their case manager, whoever else is involved in the village of that child, creating a plan to make sure we're moving the educational progress forward. At the same time, they're walking alongside the caregivers, parents or guardians of those students to help address any challenges that might be in the way of academic success and making sure that those parents or caregivers feel like they're able to connect to the school environment or the school community because we know all of that leads to more success for the student. But when you're working really closely with a family like that, everything that they're experiencing in their life comes into that equation. We are focused on education, but that doesn't come without awareness that an unstable housing situation has now gone to completely unstable and a family is in transition over a weekend. It doesn't come without awareness that a working caregiver has lost a job due to downsizing and now they're back at square one and trying to move forward again. So all of that comes into the equation. And so
Gosh.
our staff are doing that with, depending on their site, 15, 25, 30 students. And then I look at our staff who work with high
Mm.
schoolers, and that's a whole nother level as they're trying to move students towards that graduation pathway. And so,
It's a lot to carry.
yes, and it's a lot to carry in terms of what you can handle, and it's a lot to carry in terms of what you know is out of your lane and how do you make those choices.
Yeah, I think about being at work with compassion fatigue? Because there's only so much they can do, which is why you have so many great partners. But how do you lead employees who are struggling with compassion fatigue?
Yeah, so we focus a lot on making sure that we're taking care of ourselves. And this is cliche, but it's also true. Like, you cannot pour out from an empty well. So if you are not in a space where you are feeling good and whole, it limits what help you're able to give someone else, whether that's another teammate or a family that you're working with. So we really try to focus on making sure like we give the space and time for that. We're working hard to create a culture that is based on transparency, celebration,
Right.
and connection. Those are kind of the three words that we use a lot. And that comes from a place of if we implement those three words correctly, people will be working in a place where they feel comfortable
Yeah.
raising their hand and
Yeah.
saying, it's too much right now. Like, I need a break or a space or whatever that looks like. But that connection and celebration brings in, then we have your back. Like, we will make sure nothing falls through the cracks. So it really is kind of this continual focus on how do we do those three things well. Because I think it can be really tempting and overwhelming when you just look at like, okay, how do we solve compassion fatigue? Like, the reality is we probably
Right.
can't solve compassion fatigue, but we can create a culture where people feel comfortable saying, I'm there now. And how do we move that in a different direction?
So it sounds like it's become a mantra. It gives
Right.
you something to focus on.
Hmm.
You used the word anchoring earlier to this idea that everything doesn't have to change tomorrow. I bet those three words are also an important anchor for you. You can always go back to them.
Correct. Yes. Yes. And what's been really, really impactful is I think as a lot of leaders, we can take okay, these three words, and it is my responsibility to make sure that the whole team feels those or knows those words. We have a group of people here on our team who have committed to being a part of what we call a culture champion team that we established through our partnership with True You. But that group of folks has decided on those words based on their interactions, what they see as important. And then they are the champions of that culture, not I am a champion for sure of that culture, but we are doing it together. And that's, I think, has been one of the most powerful things over the past few months, especially, is we have even been able to take those words, and as we look at like what things are we going to prioritize as a team, we filter them through those three words. Like, does it promote transparency? Does it increase connection between our team? Is it celebrating something? Is it the small wins? You said that earlier. Like, it leads us to focus on those things because we're filtering everything kind of through those three words.
Well, and I suspect it creates connection within the team also because their shared values is really
Absolutely.
what they are.
Yeah. And that connection in the team, in and of itself, combats that compassion fatigue.
Because they recognize they're not alone.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like joint mission is a really critical first step,
Yes.
but feeling like you're linking arms with the folks who are on that joint mission with you is a whole nother level.
It's so good. And shout out to True You. Love them and the work that they are doing. And that's where we met, was at a True You event. So talk a little bit more about your culture champions. Like how were they determined and what part did they play in ensuring that people feel cared for and connected and celebrated?
Yeah. And truthfully, initially, like, culture champions came out. It's something that True You does when you partner with them. They encourage you to have a team. And kind of the baseline level of that is like, you have this resource through True You. How are you going to encourage people to utilize it? So how do you encourage people to use the professional development opportunities? But when I talked to our representative from True You, I said, I want this to be something bigger than just like, I want it to be that. But I think I want this group to kind of hold the culture that we are creating on this team in their hands and really advocate for it. And I think as a leader, you can be in a silo and you can think you have your hand on the pulse of what's happening, but that this group is created intentionally of people across all different departments, across varying leadership levels, and really designed to kind of pull in every single aspect of the organization and who not just even, took a careful look, not just at who do they lead on teams, but who do they interact with in the lunchroom, or who are they drawn to in kind of that like informal office conversation, so that
Yeah.
we knew we were kind of hitting all the spheres of influence. And having a group like that who is kind of committed, really, it's way quicker of an impact on the whole team because it's not coming out from a single point. So we kind of work together with True You to make this something bigger than, the way True You initially designs it.
And it's so interesting for you as the CEO to highlight the impact, because it really reinforces that we are all responsible for culture. It is a shared responsibility.
Correct.
It certainly, you could make the case that it certainly starts with you.
Yes.
But you're encouraging everyone to step up and participate and engage.
Yes. And when you go back to kind of our initial framing of our conversation around like, how do you do this when the need is growing and the climate is changing? The temptation is to like hold it tight and do it alone.
Right.
And you absolutely cannot. And so if I were trying to champion internal culture and look at scalability and look at resiliency, sustainability of the organization, all of those things alone, we would not be succeeding. It's only inviting teams of leaders into every single aspect of those that we're able to keep moving forward in a really strong position.
You need the team. And you are all in this together.
Yes.
Well, you strike me someone who naturally has a very collaborative, engaging spirit. Like you want to see, well, let's go back to the story that I started with.
Yeah.
You mentoring and pouring into this young woman. Clearly that is your style.
That is my favorite part of leadership, I will say. Like, it's interesting. I had a lot of conversations with our founder as we were like moving closer and closer to her transitioning out of the CEO role. And not that many years ago, our conversation around it, I would have said, no way, not in a million years. And what I was drawn to in the role that I was currently in is I had so much of that opportunity to coach and mentor and help grow. And that's what I really love about my job. And I think when I look at my career path, that I was in youth ministry at one point and move into this role that I'm in now. But what it took for me to be comfortable and excited about moving into this role is to see the spaces in this role where that still exists. And looking at it from the outside, I think it's hard to see. But the more I grew closer and closer to this role, I saw like, okay, those opportunities are still there. And that's what I love about leading an organization.
When she reframed it in a way that here's what this role is all about. It's like, okay, I can do that. And actually, I'm excited about that. And obviously, you're very
Yes.
good at that. Something else that I'm curious about, and I don't know. But I want to tease this out. I suspect that the political environment has been challenging for you all. Like there have been lots of funding cuts, and
Yes.
But I have not heard you like point to that, blame that. Like I really appreciate how you navigate that. Tell me, like, first of all, what is the impact of the current administration on your business? And how do you think about and lead through that?
Yeah. It's interesting. What I compare it to a lot is I think in this current administration, there is a lot of uncertainty created. So when I say that, a good example is there's been a lot of conversation all along the way about the Department of Education. Is it necessary? Is it not necessary? What parts are going somewhere else? Just this, there's a lot of conversation around it, a lot of changes. we live in the world that is impacted by the Department of Education. So even when nothing was happening, a lot of uncertainty was being created about what might come. And what is most interesting to me about that is, so we've started kind of operating in this area of like, okay, what's the uncertainty that's coming this week?
Every single day.
That is a space that the families we serve live in every day.
Hmm.
Yeah. And so it's a
Wow.
powerful opportunity to really connect to what that might feel like. And it also allows us to reframe, while this might be a period where we more frequently and more significantly feel uncertainty, there is never a time where everything is certain. So that has allowed, I think, in kind of leading through this phase that has had some pretty significant impacts from where we are, to reframe it from this is a now crisis to this is an opportunity to put skills in place that we will always utilize, because nothing is ever going to be 100% certain. So what we're developing now to navigate in these more, I will say, more intense times of uncertainty
Always.
will
Yeah.
serve us all the way down the road. You don't want to be blind to what's happening right now. And I think the reality is also some of these things are impacting not only the families that we
Yeah.
serve, but our individual team members too. And so you realize the weight that people are coming to work with. So we are not turning a blind eye to that, but we also have to recognize the privilege that we have to walk alongside these families in these uncertain times. And we have to do that really well still. So we are challenging ourselves to kind of get beyond the now as much as we can.
Yeah. It's so interesting you said that the feeling of uncertainty creates like more empathy for the population that you serve and a relatability to the population that you serve.
For sure.
It also, though, I want to just highlight your attitude about the challenge, because I hear you looking for the opportunity in the challenge. This is a way to put skills in place. This is a way
Yeah.
to build muscles that we didn't have before.
And I think there's a really careful line that you have to walk between that mentality, which I think serves us really well and propels us forward,
Right.
and not minimizing the struggle. So I think that's where my energy and focus kind of goes into, and I think it's hard for all leaders right now, regardless of what industry that you're in,
Right.
to walk that line right now, to really feel like you are creating a positive trajectory despite challenges, but you're also fully aware and empathetic to what your team members, your clients, the families you serve, your customers, like being aware of what all those people are going
Right.
through while
That's
you
it.
continue to move in a positive direction. I think that's a universal challenge for leaders, especially right now.
Yeah. And I think on any given day, like I don't strike that balance well, but it's such a good reminder to be both empathic, acknowledging what is, and not shying away from that, not denying it, not negating it. Like
Right.
it is hard. And at the exact same time, casting a vision for what's possible,
Mm-hmm.
acknowledging the
Yeah.
growth opportunities in it. I mean, I think it's an and, isn't it?
Yes, yes. And I feel like it's truthfully, you have to avoid the temptation to just be paralyzed by it or stagnant. It's funny, the timing on this is, I love it, but so West Wing is one of my favorite shows of all time. And it just re-released on Netflix. So I'm like in my geeking out on West Wing phase right now.
Because that came out like early 90s,
Yes, yes.
late 90s.
I think maybe early. Let me age myself on this. But what so good. And my favorite takeaway from that show ever, and like I heard it when it was on the first time, and I really hear it now, is President Bartlett, his thing was always, what's next?
What's next?
And they would go through these like incredibly challenging, difficult situations, and it would resolve, and he would look at his team and go, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
And what I love about that is it's this whole like keep moving forward, keep moving forward, but also we're taking it one thing at a time.
Right.
Like we handled that, now what's next? So when it's overwhelming and there's all the things, the growing need, the changing climate, all the things.
Yeah.
It's so tempting to like try to solve it all at the same time. So, I often think about what is the one thing? What is the one thing that we can tackle? And then what's next? So that we don't kind of get into that overwhelmed, paralyzed, we cannot move forward.
That is so good. And it so goes back to what you started with, the whole point that you made around anchoring yourself to that idea that everything doesn't have to change tomorrow.
Right.
So how do you stay in that place? Like, what are some of the things that you do to keep yourself anchored, to continue to grow?
Yeah.
How do you care for yourself as a leader? How do you model that?
I know. I wish I modeled it better than I do, but I do think a lot of it has been around, I firmly believe that we are continuous learners. We are designed to keep learning. So again, when things are challenging and you're trying to like make space and time, it can be tempting to like stop learning. And I find that fuels me. So I need to keep learning. And I'm not just saying like I need to go to this class, but like I need to hear these people. What can I take away from these like daily interactions that will continue to fuel me? I mean, I tutor one of our kiddos every Tuesday night. What can I learn from him?
Oh my gosh.
So I've been really conscious about that. I think the other component of it is, and I think this is extra tempting in a nonprofit organization when you are all here with a like-minded mission, is to remember that we're still people outside of these walls. And so the people that ground you, the people that know you outside of your position in your organization, I think the time that I'm able to spend with those people allows me to come back in a filled space. And, I feel like I've worked really hard in this particular time to really be comfortable acknowledging the boundaries and saying the things, whether it's to myself or to my team, like, no, you will not take that meeting during your PTO.
Yeah.
Like it is tempting because we're in such a virtual world to be like,
yeah,
it's fine. I'll just take this one, and I've had people do that for me to say, like I've said to them like, hey, I can jump on even though I'm going to be here. And they've said, no, you don't need to do that. It'll be here when you get back. So I've tried to like take that and also model that. And I would be remiss not to say, I mean, my board of directors is phenomenal. And they absolutely...
what every nonprofit leader wants.
And they, I meet with an incredible executive committee on a regular basis from my board, and they never get off a meeting without asking, how am I doing? How am I taking care of myself? And how can they support me?
Dang, well done.
Yes. I mean, it is coming to me from the people that lead me. And I think, just creating that culture where we're saying like, it is okay to take the time to take care of yourself. Once you say it so many times, you have to do it. I live in a home with teenagers. They will call me out every time I do something that I told them to do that I'm not doing.
Accountability for the win.
Exactly.
Well, so you have a lot of support around
Yes.
you. I hear that. You've got such a great support structure. I heard lots of things you're doing to care for yourself. And like you said, you don't always model it well, but it sounds like there's a lot of intentionality. I also just, even thinking about meeting you at that CEO breakfast, you could have done lots of things that morning.
Yes.
But you chose to take time out, to go connect with other CEOs, to learn. So you're making choices to pour into yourself and your growth.
Well, and what I love about those opportunities, which I think are really important, specific to this time, is something like that. It was an opportunity not to just connect with folks who are in the nonprofit sector, which I love doing, but it was people from all across all the different types of businesses, organizations, independent entrepreneurs. And where I think that's really healthy and helps in this conversation of like, how do you stay grounded? That you realize both what are the things that are universal, like not just specific to what's challenging nonprofits, but what's challenging everybody.
Yes.
And that gives you a good perspective, a healthy perspective, and it gives you ideas that sometimes don't come up when you're sitting in a room of nonprofit folks, because we live in kind of that same world.
And you can get very insular. And so getting out of your industry, like, yeah, there's definitely a recognition of I'm not alone. And this is not just my industry, but also the learning that can occur.
Yeah.
The ideas that you can get from other industries, other leaders.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. I so admire the work that you are doing.
Oh, thank you.
And I love it that you're tutoring a kiddo right now. I bet that really keeps you connected to the like the frontline work that your team members are engaged in every day.
Absolutely. I think it's really easy to get caught up in the process and the procedure of the organization. And even though you know the why as a CEO and articulate it probably daily, when you have a personal connection to the why, it is so much more meaningful.
Yeah. And I suspect you attract team members that share that.
Oh my gosh.
Passion for the why.
Our team is, I mean, that's the other thing that I keep thinking in this whole conversation we're having is like, yes to all these things, but I have an incredible team that has phenomenal leaders all the way through the organization. And so things are challenging, but I feel super grateful to be on the team that I'm on doing the work that we're doing.
Well, it's a shared challenge. My favorite definition of leadership comes from Jim Kouzes and Barry Posner's The Leadership Challenge. And they say leadership is mobilizing others to want to struggle for shared aspirations.
I love that.
That's exactly what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
What I appreciate about that definition is it gets at how hard it is, mobilizing others to want to struggle, because leadership is so hard.
Right. And the true distinction, I think that highlights also the true distinction between leading and managing. So often we confuse those two.
We do.
In that definition, there is no opportunity. You can't manage someone into wanting to struggle.
And it's an art,
right?
Much more so than a science. I mean,
yes.
it's emotional. It's vulnerable. We got to take the armor off,
right,
to mobilize others to want to do hard things.
And you can't be disconnected. Like you absolutely have to be linking arms with your team to get to that place.
Mm-hmm. As we wrap up and you reflect on the work that you all are doing at such a challenging time and the way in which you're doing it, what do you hope that other leaders will take away from our conversation?
One thing I really hope for leaders to take away would be the idea that your leader doesn't mean alone. It can feel very solitary or alienated, but I hope that all leaders feel like they have a good support system and that they're engaging their whole team in leadership. I think that would be, because I think that not only makes for better teams, it also supports you as a leader and your mental health and your social emotional health and all the things that you need to continue to lead. So I think that would be the most important thing. And I also just think that the idea of continuous learning, I think it gets really tempting when you get in a leadership position at any level to be like, I've got this. I've learned it all. And to know that it doesn't matter what you're at or what you're doing, there is something to be learned from it, even if it's what not to do.
Right.
So I think those two things have been the most impactful for me. So I feel like that's what I hope folks would take away.
Yeah. And I I think about like how we titled this episode, Leading When the Need is Growing and the Environment is Getting Harder. And I think you just told us how to do that. To remember that leadership is a team sport and remembering that you're growing through it.
Right.
Like, keep going. You are building muscles. And I so share that attitude that life is giving me exactly what I need right now. I may not know what that is or how I will use this, but it is purposeful. I am certain of that.
Yes. Yes, for sure.
Kelly, thank you for being on our show.
Thank you so much.
If our listeners want to connect with you, where can they find you? What's the best place?
So definitely can find me on LinkedIn. It's Kelly Coker. And I would also just encourage folks to check out Brightlane Learning, www.brightlanelearning.org.
We will put the link to the website in the show notes so that people can learn more about you. We will also put the link to True You in the website, in the show notes, since we talked so much about that great team and what they're doing and how you all are leveraging them to continue to build your culture.
Yes.
So, Kelly, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Leadership is not meant to be a solo sport. That is the through line of everything Kelly shared today, particularly when things are hard and challenging. Whether it's anchoring yourself to what is working, filtering decisions through shared values, building a team of culture champions, or simply staying curious and connected. None of that happens in isolation. It happens in community. What I love about this conversation is everything Kelly is doing inside Brightlane Learning, the transparency, the celebration, the connection, the continuous learning. Those aren't just things that work in a nonprofit serving students experiencing homelessness. Those are things that work, period, in any organization, at any level, in any industry. So as you listen today, if any of this resonated, if you're in a season where the need is growing, the environment feels harder, and you're trying to figure out how to keep your team energized and moving forward, that's exactly the work we do at Abundant Empowerment. Inside our communities, we help leaders build those muscles together. Because the best leadership development doesn't happen in a workshop or in a classroom. It happens in community, just like Kelly described. So come join us. The link is in the show notes. And Kelly, thank you for the work you are doing, for the way you're doing it, and for showing up so generously today. Until next time, keep leading. You've got this.